Hi everybody, and welcome to part 3 of the Blender intro. How do you do? Today we're going to be getting into a more advanced character. So a lot of the stuff that I've been showing you so far, it's a good way to figure out, where things are, how things work, but a lot of the ways that I've been doing things aren't necessarily the way that you would usually be working with this program. There's a lot of shortcuts. There's a lot of ways that, make things faster, make things a little easier. But I wanted to make sure we didn't skip over any of the, the basic stuff. So today we'll be getting into more of that, how people actually work with this program. Because on the one hand, you can get in there, you can move those little vertices and edges and faces around. But as you're going to see today, there's some more kind of natural, more intuitive ways of doing things. And with that said, let's just leap straight into it. Okay, so we're going to start with a new one today. We're not going to use that same one that we had last time. And you know what? I'm going to get rid of this cube, and I'm going to add a UV sphere. So that's got a ton of faces, a ton of details. You could get to that the same way by, using that subdivide option on that cube, but I'm just going to go straight into a sphere because that's how I feel today. And now we're going to take our first look at this whole section up here. So these are a bunch of different, I think they're called workspaces. So this is called the layout space. So this is, we were adding different body parts. We were making a whole landscape last time and adding, trees and water. So that's great for the layout view. If you want to do some more detailed modeling work, they've got this modeling view that takes you straight into edit mode, which you might remember from last time using that extrude. The loop cut and, rotating, blah, blah, blah. But like I said, there's a slightly more intuitive, a more kind of natural way to make objects, and an easier way, certainly, to make advanced characters. And that is using this sculpting workflow. So it's a little different, but it's the same kind of idea. You've got a bunch of tools on the left-hand side here, and then you've got your object in the middle. So there's kind of a few different ways you can see the same information. So up top you can see, or we've got this draw brush on here. I'll click on different ones and you can see we've got different things happening. So we'll just start with the basics, because again, just like edit mode, there's tons of different options in here. I find I usually use 2 or 3 of them, and then the others are just, in those rare times when you're like, oh, I wonder if there's something that does this. So up here we can see we're using sculpt, draw, radius, strength. It's got a whole bunch of information. We don't really need to worry too much about that yet, but all I want you to notice is this stuff up here is the same as this stuff down here. So there's a couple of different ways that you can view the same information. You know what, let's just have a little bit of experimentation. We'll use the draw brush. So I'm just clicking and moving the mouse around. Let's see what that did. I kind of added a big lump. So let's see if we can add another lump. We're adding another lump on there. That's neat. Okay, so I got a big lump. I can add maybe another lump. Well, what happens if I want to get rid of this lump? Well, while you're holding down the, or while you're using the draw or any of these, you can use this one function just by clicking, but if you want to do the opposite of that, you can hold down the control button on a PC while you click. So control clicking will be like the anti-draw, so it'll undraw. So click, and you draw, you add a little more clay or whatever, however you want to think of it. Control click, and you're like cutting that away. So that is kind of the main method that I would use for this sculpting stuff. You're adding a little bit on over here. Maybe you went a bit too far. Maybe you want to take a bit away. Maybe you want to carve out a little from underneath, so you carve out from underneath. So that will get you, some unique kind of shapes that you might not get with the mesh editing, moving the points around and the lines. And yeah, some people who have done, actual sculpting might be looking at this and going, oh, okay, yeah, I've done this with physical media, like I mentioned, clay or something. I don't have that experience, so I'm just looking at this and going, oh yeah, I bet that's probably what it's like. But the nice thing about this is it is, it's digital. You're making this 3D object, so it's not necessarily that even if you do know how to sculpt that it's going to work the same way, or that you need to know how to sculpt. I think it's more just like if you kind of think of it this way, it'll help you out. So I'm going to undo. I'm just going to Control Z to undo. You can also get Edit Undo. You can see the shortcut right there. So I'm going to just return this back to a sphere. So I think, yeah, now we got like our perfect sphere. We haven't done anything to it yet. So that is basically how these tools work. But there's a couple of little options up here that are going to make things a lot easier on us. And one, I'm going to turn on mirroring, so symmetry in the x-axis. So what we do to the left side, we will also do to the right side. So if you're making a character, this is really helpful because you can do, I'm kind of a little bit lost. Okay, let's move. Okay, we're on the front. If you want to build up some arms or something, then you do this on both sides, and you've got arms. You want to do the same for legs. Then you've got a symmetrical character. Or say you're making a face, and you want to carve out the eyes and add a nose in or something. So that's a way that you can maintain the symmetry. And there's one other option. Once again, I'm going to go back to normal, and this will be the final kind of like special little option before we get into the act of actually making something here. The last option here is this one, and it's called Dyn Topo. And what does this mean? So let's click it on. It's going to give us this warning. So this is an important warning that you'll see why later. So particularly this, UVs, we're going to talk about what those are and how they work later. So Vertex data detected Dyn Topo will not preserve Vertex colors, UVs, or other custom data. So what does this mean? Basically, this is telling us if you have an image that you've mapped onto here, maybe we made a character out of this, and this is his head, this is like their pants down here. So we've made an image, and this is we've drawn the head up here, we've drawn the pants down here. The UVs are what tell it where the pants are supposed to go, where the head's supposed to go. So if we turn this on, we're going to lose any of that, texture mapping data, anything that says this is where the feet are, this is where the hands are, this is where the shirt goes, this is where the head goes. All of that stuff is going to be gone. But we don't have any of that stuff yet. Probably a lot of you saw that warning and you were like, I don't know what any of these words mean, and that's fine. Because the only thing you need to remember is that if you use this feature, it's going to mess up any textures that you already have on there. But like I said, we're starting from scratch, so we don't care about any of that. So we just go, okay, that's fine. So now that we've got that clicked, now that we've gone through the process of being slightly traumatized by that weird warning, what did we even do it for? Well, let's do a little drawing. So we're drawing here, and you might notice already we've got some kind of like slightly finer detail than we had before. And the nice thing about this is when you zoom in, this is the benefit of the Dyn Topo. So we grab our grabby zoomy, and now that we're closer, we get to work with some finer details still. So we can carve a little bit of nose stuff happening here, around the eyebrows. Yeah, and then we can start to, kind of build up these subtler details that we, maybe didn't have earlier. And then, we zoom in again, and all of a sudden, we've got these tiny little details, and we're starting to actually, carve in stuff that we just really couldn't have done with those bigger brushes that, maybe were great for adding those big things like, like arms and legs. But now that it comes time to add the finer features, You know, they're letting us down a little bit because we just can't have that fine control. So if you have this Dyn Topo on, then the closer you get, the finer your detail will get as well. And you'll be able to see, you know, examples of this right here. We can do these little kind of lines, this sort of stylized eyeball kind of thing. I don't really know what I'm sculpting, to be honest. And then you can zoom out and you can see this terrifying monstrosity thing that we've created. Okay, so that is the basic of sculpting. I wonder if I can get back to, I'm just going to undo. I might not be able to, yeah, I can't get back to 0. So that's the basics of sculpting. So you know what, if you get to this point and you want to start fresh, let's just go, we'll delete this, we'll add that same, it was a UV sphere that I used. Not that it really matters when you're sculpting, because you can sculpt, you can change things so much. And now that we've started with a new object, we again have to turn on our symmetry and our Dyn Topo, and every time we do, it's going to give us that warning. So if you're the kind of person who panics when you see a warning, fear not. Like I said, if we're starting from a fresh object, which is what we're doing here, then you're not actually losing anything. Okay, so let's sculpt a character. So I might try with this character to take a little bit more time, which will probably mean that I'm going to have to go into, you know, time-lapse mode, some super zoomy mode, but I'll try and get something that looks kind of halfway decent for the end of this one for you. Okay, and one of the things that is going to help me out with that is we are going to add, where is it? We go down here, image, and we're going to add a reference image because, you know, that is really going to help me when drawing. So what do I want here? Proportions of the face? No. T-pose. Click on the big Y. That's where we want to be facing. We want to click on this empty. Let's just call it reference image so that makes things easier. Reference image. And we want to rotate this on the Z-axis. Let's try back to 0 because, yeah, I think that's what we actually wanted. Okay, so sculpt. We should now be, oh yeah, and sometimes this happens. If you go into layout mode, you go back to sculpting, and it's like, where's all my sculpt stuff? Well, it's because we're not clicked on the thing that we want to be sculpting. And then once we are, it's like, well, hey guy, we were in sculpt mode. What's going on? You can go up here, object mode, and now you can see all of the different modes that are available. We've only got down now to this third one here, sculpt mode, and now it's looking back the way it's supposed to. So you can always check this box up here because I find that is something that actually happens to me pretty often when I'm using sculpting. So now that we've done that, we've got the X axis being the left and right. I should be, yeah, I'm getting the same behavior on both sides of the model. That is cool. That's what I'm looking for. So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing it and I'm pinching it in, and it's kind of just making a dent in the sides here. So what I want to do is I want to make this area that I'm affecting a little bit bigger. So a couple of ways you can do that. If you got the Dyn Topo on, you can just, you know, zoom out and grab stuff. You'll be grabbing more stuff. Another way you can do that is by enhancing or enlarging the radius. So it was at 50, it's at 100, radius up to 200, and you can see that circle, that area that it affects, just gets bigger. So now that it's big, I'm not really, you know, messing up the sides like I was before. So I want to make this, well, maybe that's too big. But you know what? Who cares? So yeah, I'm going to just move this around. This is going to be real big kind of, because what I'm realizing now is I think I just want this to be the body. So there we go. Up and down, in the sides here. It's not perfectly even, but that's okay. All right, and now that we've got that there, I think that's kind of all the elastic deforming I want to do for right now anyway. Or you know what? Let's take a look at what it looks like from the side. And yeah, that's not right. Okay, shrink that in from the front, shrink that in from the back. Back and front. Misogynist to be sort of narrower, somewhat body-like shape. It's not really body-like, that's okay. I'm just going to end up in the middle. Click that Y to get back to that perspective that I want to see it from. And yeah, that's good enough for now. It's probably pretty weird looking, and that's another reason why I said let's, bear that it's going to take some time. We might need to do some time lapses because there's going to be a lot of times where this is just going to look real weird. Okay, so let's go back to draw mode. And now that we've got this huge thing, we don't really want to be drawing with this because it's just going to get out of control. It's not really giving us that detail that we want. So back to radius, let's set this to 50. Because that's what we started with, so we'll keep it nice and easy. And now, if you haven't already, we're going to turn Dine Top on. If you did have it on already, that's also cool. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little. I'll grab the hand here to move this guy around. And now we're just going to draw on. So you can either kind of click and drag your mouse around. What I find is that'll kind of draw in different areas. If you have like an area like this and you want to keep drawing on it, like that same spot for the arms, then you want to kind of keep clicking. So we'll keep clicking. If you want to kind of draw across an area, then you can click and hold down. And so I'll just show you right here. If we wanted to do like draw across the chest, then if we click and hold down, every time we move over a new area, we add a little bit. But if we're staying on the same area, we don't really add that much. So it's sometimes better to click a bunch. But I didn't actually want any of those in there. So let's do that. And we'll add some legs here too. So we're just going to kind of draw this, and we just want to fill out this shape. And this is why we brought the reference image in, because we just want it to, basically do the hard work for us. We're just kind of filling in the lines here. We don't need to figure out exactly where everything needs to go. We just need to roughly fill in the lines. So I'm drawing here. And I'm finding I'm kind of getting a little bit stuck, so why don't we get back to, and I forget it already, I'm pretty sure this is the one, right? Elastic to form. So let's increase that radius, and let's see if we can pull this down, get a little more length into these arms. Torso down again. Okay. What about clay? Let's see about clay. I don't really know how this one works. And that's kind of the beauty of this. Oops. No, that is not at all what I wish to do. Back to draw. Or inflate is kind of a fun one too. But you know what? Let's again look around. That's not really looking terrible. That's that's kind of what we're looking for. And so at this point, I'm like, I kind of want to fill in the legs, but sometimes I have trouble seeing it with the reference image there. So I'm just going to go over to the outliner thing here, and we'll see reference image, and there's a little eyeball. Click the eyeball, and you can hide the reference image. So I know I want these legs to pretty much just go straight down here, and I have trouble seeing exactly where they should go when I'm, using that reference image, which on the one hand I need, but on the other hand it got in the way. So now that I've dragged them down, I'm going to click that, and of course it's a little bit off the reference, but it's still it's going in the right direction. So we fill out our legs. They're out a little bit too far, so we can just get that elastic to form. And now I think will be the first time that I will probably enter the slipstream time-lapse matrix, and I'll see if I can just fill out these arms and legs just using the techniques that we've already shown so far. So I'm just going to be going back and forth between draw and elastic deform. Okay, so now that we've kind of got that basic shape filled out, I'm going to show you the next kind of main tool that I use. So we did a lot of drawing. We did a handful, a little bit of elastic deforming, and what you can kind of see is this torso is looking okay, this head's looking fine, the arms are looking a little lumpy, and these legs are, let me tell you, these legs are a mess. So what we need to do is we need to, just kind of smooth out some of these lumps, and if we need to smooth something, we can use this smooth brush right here. So we click on the smooth brush, and then what we're going to do is we're going to rotate around, and we're just going to kind of smooth down. So one thing that I find is that, when I'm working with the other brushes, the main thing that I need to adjust is the radius. When I start working with the smooth brush, I find what I need to do is start working with the strength. So over here we've got 0.7. Let's try, I'm going to bring it way down, let's try 0.2. And now let's try that same thing again. So that is looking a little more, it was just a little bit too aggressive for me at 0.7. So we're going to try and smooth out these legs a little bit. And once again, we're just trying to bring them in line with this outline. So we're also a little bit, we're kind of rotated around. So because I want to see straight on, I'm going to click right on that Y again. And now I know I'm looking straight on to this, the model here. So still looking strangely lumpy. So we'll bring this strange lumpiness down. And now you might be noticing that it's kind of starting a little bit, bit by bit, to resemble a human a little more. Which is great, because that's what we were going for. So it looks like my reference image also isn't perfectly symmetrical, so I'm just going to be kind of going for, kind of the reference. I'm not going to go for something that's like perfectly, bang on. And we clicked on the Y, which let us see the front. Now let's click on the other one, and that'll let us see the back. So you can kind of see here there's areas on the back where we're not really in line with the model or in line with the reference, whereas on the front we are. So we're just going to start smoothing out this back end a little. And you know what, we might even have to we might even have to build up some of these back areas. So let's go back to our draw brush, kind of filling in some of these. So I'm thinking that what is happening is it's probably looking normal from certain perspectives and it's looking super weird from others. Yeah. So there will maybe come a point at which we don't or can't really use the reference image anymore. And you know what? We're probably pretty close to that point. That was all that I wanted to get, really, was that rough shape. So let's turn this reference image off. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look around this thing and try and make it slightly more human looking. So once again, let's pop into the matrix and see what we can do about humanizing this with our... We've got 3 tools now. We're using the draw, we're using smooth, and we're using elastic deform. So here we go, Looby Loo. Okay, so this is looking slightly more human-like, and I'm going to show you now a couple of more brushes. I think that's what they're called, brushes, or, tools. So this next one is the Crease Tool. So this is really good at defining, separations between objects. So like when you smooth things out, it kind of, evens things out all over. So when I smooth around this area, under his arms, it's just going to kind of blend this out and make it more even. But what I want is actually like the opposite of that. So even though I may want to smooth it to make it look nicer, I want to make sure there's a really clear definition here, that there should be a bend. The same thing for the elbows and the knees. I might do the same thing around the neck. And this is also really good at defining small details like lines on faces when you're getting into like detailed work. So let's use a little bit of this crease brush to define where some of these lines should be. So there we got a little bit better definition kind of under and around the arms. We'll give some definition in the groin here, same a little bit up the back. We could do the same to sort of highlight the spine, and like I said, around the elbows, around really a lot of these curves, a lot of the the wrists. We can use it to define the backs of the knees, and yeah, maybe a little more around that seat of the pants area. And we could do a little bit of just sort of light sort of bone definition, I guess. I'm going to use draw to fill in this area here a little bit more. And then one rule that I kind of tend to go by is that I do more than I need to. I exaggerate a little bit because I know most of the time I'm going to grab this smooth brush right after whatever I do and use that to kind of balance it out. So it's a matter of workflow too, what you're comfortable with, what you like. Crease around this neck, make it nice and defined, nice and obvious where the neck is. And I'm going to do the same thing around here and define this as where the head starts. And then for the head, I'm going to show you the I won't say the last major brush, but one that is very handy for this in particular, and that's the Inflate brush. So I've got this head. It's obviously slightly thinner than a head should be. So I'm going to grab Inflate, and I'm just going to click and drag around, and sure enough, it's just inflating it like a balloon. So we click around, and we just blow this head up until we start to get something that kind of looks like what we want to get. Okay, much like all things Blender, sculpting, etc., I'm going to overdo and then repair afterwards or cut away. Okay, so good enough. I don't need this character to be super realistic. I'm probably going to go for a slightly stylized character because that'll make this just a little bit of an easier process, I think. You could bring in a reference for the face, for the head. I'm just going to kind of freeball it. And like I said, I'm not really great at sculpting or 3D art or whatever, but that's what makes Blender so much fun, because it's like, it's free. So you download it, you mess around, you learn some cool things, and you're none the worse off for it. Okay, so let's keep this face ahead a little more. A little on there. Close enough for Yaz. So let's zoom in, move up, and like I said, we're using Dyn Topo. Let's click on the Y, get us right centered straight on, using the Dyn Topo so we can, add finer details now that we're in here. So I'm going to draw. We'll draw these eyebrows. We'll draw this nose. Just roughly kind of where our things should be. Hollows for our eyes. We'll draw the cheekbones in. We're going to remove this a little bit. What else? That's pretty good. Climb down. Oops. Oh, okay. So about a little more detail. These got our eyes side here. We've got brows up top. Almost the wrong enough for lips here. We've got our chin down the bottom. Right up in there. And that's smooth. And yeah, this is again, getting back into what I was mentioning before about the Crease Tool being useful for like drawing lines in the face, and that... why do I keep doing that? And zoom in. So yeah, let's see if we can get some, kind of draw some lines here. So we'll get the lines coming down there. We'll get some sort of frown lines happening. And carve around this nose now. So yeah, it's cool to me how easy it is to, at various different stages, go, oh, I don't think this looks right, and then you just got so much control over what you're working on, even if, like me, you don't really know what you're doing. But like I said, that's the best part. Okay, just flatten it a little bit more, and now what's going to happen is probably we're going to look at them from a different angle and go, oh, what have we done? What horrible things have we done? And let's zoom out a little, look around. He actually doesn't look terrible. I think we need to do some smoothing. And of course, this is all relative. Some of you may think he looks terrible. And like we got so much control here. Let's get perfectly side on so we can see what we're doing. 'Cause yeah, I want to just... Ooh, no, I don't want to do that. Okay. Kind of move this in. There we go. You know what? This is a freaky, weird-looking character, but that's fine. Let's go back to our layout mode. And now what we're going to do here is we got this weird character. We are going to add another UV sphere. We're going to rotate it on the x-axis. I'm going to say 90 degrees. Looks good. And some of you may be asking, what are we doing? Well, get our move tool, move it over, get our, expand this out, get our scale tool, scale it down, and this is going to be an eyeball, which will make our guy look a tiny bit less scary, I hope. So move it over. We'll use that dot to kind of center. Yeah, that's roughly what we want. I don't really know about the size. That might be too big, might be too small. Let's just see what we got right now. Okay. So this is what I like to call Rob's easy eyeball trick. We're going to create the eyeball. We are going to hop into our material preview mode. We are going down here and we are going to create new material. So we're going to click plus. We're going to call this white. We're going to click plus again, new. We're going to call this one black. And we'll make the color black. And now we're going to go up into edit mode. We're going to get into face select because we want to be selecting faces. And we're going to click on some faces in here. So click and drag, select everything right there. Now we're going to go back here. We're going to click black and we're going to click assign. And now when we go back into object mode, we got a googly eye. I'm going to do two more things with the googly eye. We're going to click on the googly eye. We're going to go object, shade smooth, stops it from looking blocky and weird and whatever. And then one more thing, while we're still clicked on that, and let's call this eyeball. So we're clicked on the eyeball. We're going to go into modifiers. We're going to add a mirror modifier, which is going to duplicate a copy of it. And on mirror object, because we don't want it just mirroring itself, because like you can't see anything, it just looks the same right now. We're going to click the eyedropper, and we'll click the sphere. So we'll call this Sculpty. So this guy's called Sculpty. And what I find this helps with is, again, with that symmetry thing, he's looking super weird now. This will help us kind of line up and see if we've got this face looking the way we want it to. So we're going to go back into sculpting. We're going to get our thing. We're going to click Dyn Topo. Again, it's going to give us the warning. And we're going to say, yeah, no, we get it. We do want it on. And now we're going to shape these eyes a little bit around the eyeballs. So I want to take a little bit away here. And you can just kind of decide what shape of eyeball you want your character to have right here. Because we're essentially just kind of like drawing in their eyelids. So, you know, if you want your character to look kind of angry, look maybe like a villain, you can kind of, you know, draw it right in over that. If you want your character to look, you know, sad or worried, you can do the opposite of that. If you want your character to look kind of neutral, which is what we're, I think, hoping for here, or shooting for here. We're just going to try and go for a nice, relatively round, not suggestive of any particular emotion, hopefully. But again, with limited art skills, who knows what you're actually putting out there. So let's do a little more drawing. We'll try and get a little better definition on the mouth, maybe. Woo! And I keep flinging myself away from where I want to be. Okay, so let's zoom in and we'll see if we can get, so there's a little kind of thing, you know, right underneath your nose. Then lips come up and then down. So we got that happening. And then we'll move up and the lower lips kind of just are there. Just a big round thing. And then across the center we have mostly roundness. Now zooming out, it's looking a little less terrifying, or more terrifying, you know? It's really a pretty subjective thing, isn't it? Smooth out some of these, maybe draw a little more on that lip to just give it a little more prominence. Same with the bottom, just a slightly more prominent lip. Don't want to have too big a dip in that center. And there we go. So, like I said, the more time you put in, you know, you can bring in a reference. You can, it's next maybe a bit skinny there. You can spend a lot of time getting the face exactly the way you want. You know, you can add another object. You could sculpt some hair. If you wanted to sculpt, you know, you could sculpt the hair straight on him. If you wanted to add a different object so that you could have, you know, different hairstyles, different hats that you could put on the same character, you've got a bunch of different options. For right now, I'm probably not going to do too much more detail on it. Maybe I'll just smooth out a little more of the detail that we have here and say that's good. Okay, that will be close enough for the Yaz flute, I think. And now